Good morning, everyone. Joe Madden here, the Joe Madden Sports Podcast, joined this morning by David Bearman, Deputy Editor of Sports Betting at ESPN. David, how's the morning treating you so far?
Good. Thanks for having me on. It's nice, gorgeous day outside, about, mid 80s, a little down from yesterday's 90 degrees, which was a blessing to have, but at the office. So you'll see me in the little Superman booth here, soundproof booth, talking to you.
I like it. You can't go wrong with the Superman booth there for sure, David. Now, I'm excited to talk with you. We've got the Memorial Golf Tournament kicking off tomorrow, June 2nd to 5th. What are your thoughts in this?
This is one of those tournaments that it's just a step below a major. Obviously, we talk a lot about the four majors and the World Golf Championship events. The Memorial, along with Arnold Palmer Invitational, obviously run by Jack, and that one by Arnie, are seen as two of the bigger ones, along with TPC Sawgrass back in March, that go along right with the majors. High purse, invitational only, so only 120 people in the field. You have to qualify to make it, and a stacked field. You're going to see some of the best players in the world there, and I know people hear that often, but yeah, there are about 10 tournaments every single year. We have the best golfers in the world. This is one of them at Jack's Place at Muirfield Village in Ohio. But this is also Jon Rahm's paradise. Like, this is a course that Jon Rahm has dominated, and you don't need to listen to this show or read the column on ESPN.com that we wrote about the golf picks for me to tell you to take the favorite. Anybody can take the favorite at any time. But there are those spots, Joe, where I think the favorite really is the favorite. Like, yes, you're always going to have someone with the lowest odds to win a tournament, but you're also going to have tournaments with 120 to 156 golfers in it. So there's no value in taking the favorite, unless it's Jon Rahm at the Memorial, which is very similar to how we used to treat Tiger Woods at Torrey Pines and Tiger Woods at the Arnie Palmer event. Tiger Woods at this very event that he won 5 times. Rahm 2 years ago won this event going away. It was a 3-shot win that really was a 5-shot win. They assessed him a 2-shot penalty after the round, and the tournament was over. Didn't matter. Dominated the field. Last year, in his defense, he had a 6-shot lead after 54 holes and was rolling 2 back-to-back Memorial titles, dominating the field, when unfortunately he got the news on 18 that he had COVID. And because he had COVID, he was no longer allowed to participate, pulled out of the event, and Patrick Cantlay beat Colin Morikawa in a playoff. Now, all 3 players have played this course very well, but Jon Rahm, over those 7 rounds, 3 last year before he got through and 4 before, gained 38 strokes on the field, which is an obscene number along the lines of what you've seen Tiger Woods do to a lot of the fields when he was in his prime. So, in this case, I'm telling you that the 11-1, 10-1 that you can get on Jon Rahm is worth the price. Normally, when you see a guy dominate a field and a course, it's in the 7 to 8-1 range. But I really like Rahm here at 11-1. And if you're a little skittish about taking the 11-1 on a favorite, take the plus 260 to finish in the top 5, because Jon Rahm will be in contention on Sunday. He always has good Sundays, even in tournaments where he's not contending. He'll have the backdoor top 10.
Yeah.
But I think Jon Rahm's going to win this one again. He also has, a message to deliver after having to pull out last year with COVID, even though he was asymptomatic. So I like him here. He is the favorite that I have to win. If I were to give another pick on the other side of things as a long shot, I kind of like Patrick Reed at 50-1. Here's a guy who's had a terrible season. Call it what it is. The former Masters champ has been in terrible form all year until the last 2 weeks. Patrick Reed has kind of gotten back into his groove, moving up the rankings and in terms of how he's shooting. Got a T7 last week in Fort Worth on a very difficult course. So he's in better form now than he was before. I could give you a whole bunch of metrics, but I'd be wasting people's time because the metrics represent how bad the rest of his season was. So he's not something that giving you those numbers won't help, unlike Jon Rahm's metrics are off the chart. But this is someone who's a perfect 6 for 6 at this event, making the cut. 3 top 10 finishes, going T10 and T5 each of the last 2 years. He plays this course well. He finished T9 in shots gained on approach at the PGA Championship and 15th this last week at Charles Schwab. And by the way, because he's been so bad, you're getting him at 50-1 odds. I think there's value there for somebody who has played this course well and is rounding into form. Well, why should I bet on a 50-1 shot? He's 50-1 because the other 20 events have been terrible. But I think you're jumping in at the right time with Patrick Reed.
Yeah, great value there for sure. And I think we all remember that moment when Jon Rahm was taken off the course. Definitely a heartbreaking situation for him to go through. And, there is that spike coming into this one. Any thought on the defending champion?
Now, there's always that narrative that, hey, you got DQ'd withdrew last year. But to me, he's just the best player in the field playing a tournament. He plays very well. As far as the defending champion and Patrick Cantlay, I actually like him to finish in the top 10 at plus 165. I'm not taking him to win because John Rahm is in the field, quite frankly. And it's tough it's one thing to take John Rahm at 11-1, but then back it up with a Cantlay at 13 or 14-1 when John Rahm's there, I think wouldn't be a value bet because he hasn't played it as well as John Rahm has. The thing about Patrick Cantlay is he just has been a no-show at the majors. And that doesn't mean he doesn't play well in other top events. He's done very well at the Players Championship in the past, and he's done well at RBC and Phoenix, finishing runner-up. He just has been a no-show at the majors. But as I said at the very beginning of this podcast, this is one of the events that's right there below a major, so I expect him to do well. And if for some reason John Rahm doesn't play well, Patrick Cantlay absolutely could win this event. Other players I like, Willie Zalatoris, top 10 finish. This guy has gone T5, T6, T4, miscut, second cut. That's his last 7 events on tour. You know what you're getting. If he misses the cut, you're not getting paid. If he makes the cut, he's finishing 5th, 6th, 4th, 2nd. Hasn't played here other than one time missing the cut. This course fits his game. He's been a top 10 machine. I like him at 3-1. And I would play Shane Lowry to finish in the top 20 at plus 250. Simply put, he's been a top 20 cashing machine. If you had played Shane Lowry in each of the last 7 stroke play events, you would have had 6 cashes and then 1 event where you missed it by 1 shot. So him in the top 20 is good for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Moneymaker right there. Well, tomorrow is an exciting day. We also have the NBA Finals kicking off, David. Any thoughts on this? We got the Boston Celtics, Golden State Warriors, a total that has risen from 211 to 212.5. Where are you going with this series?
Taking all bias aside, as a Miami Heat fan who just got knocked out by the hated Celtics, you look at the 2 teams, I think this is a phenomenal matchup. I still think the Warriors are the better team. This is a team that won multiple titles over the last decade. It's a dynasty that keeps coming back. You win a couple, lose one to the Cavs, win more, have 69 wins in 70 wins in one season. They're a team that is a dynasty that I think is better than the Boston Celtics, but I would never count out a Boston Celtics team that just seems to be rising off the mat one after another. They haven't lost 2 games in a row in the entire postseason. Every time you count them out, they bounce back. I just don't know when it comes down to clutch time. And the one thing that didn't happen in the Heat Celtics series is, other than the very, very end of Game 7, you didn't have any close games. Every single game was a blowout one way or another. I want to see how the Celtics do in a close game with everything on the line. We'll see how they do. They're very, very young, but they got very good players in Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart. These guys can win an NBA title, and I firmly believe this team will win an NBA title one day, but you're going up against the mighty Warriors who have been there, done that before. Great team with a great coach. I'm going to take the Warriors to win the series. I'm not going to be betting Game 1. I want to see how it acts, but at the same, because you have converging trends here. You have a Warriors team that hasn't played in forever. You haven't seen them in about 2 weeks. You don't know if there's rust, but you also have a Celtics team who just get back-to-back 7-game series. And stats have shown that teams coming off 7-game series don't necessarily play well in Game 1. The Celtics got off to a good start versus the Heat. We're leading at halftime of Game 1 by about 12 and completely collapsed in the third quarter, where the Heat put arguably one of the best quarters in playoff history together, dominating the Celtics in the third quarter of Game 1. That very well could happen again in Game 1 of the NBA Finals with a very well-rested Warriors team that comes out a little bit rusty to allow the Celtics to play and take the lead, but then all of a sudden they run out of gas because of a 7-game series. They do have extra rest than they had between the Bucks series and the Heat series. But keep in mind, this is a Boston team that already beat the Nets, who were favored in the series as a 7 seed and were favored to win the NBA title before the season started. Beat the defending champion Bucks, which they were an underdog versus, and then beat the Heat, who are as well coached as anybody in basketball. So I won't put anything past the Celtics beating anybody, considering who they've already beaten in the East. I just think the Warriors are the better team.
Yeah, I agree with you with the better team there in the Warriors. And I'm sorry for your Miami Heat. I was rooting for them. Really did think they were able to get it done. Any thoughts on that shot by Jimmy Butler? Should he have pushed in closer?
Hey, you can't fault the guy for going for the kill shot, going out there for the 3-pointer. He makes it. He's a cult hero. He's the best player in basketball. The Heat are on a mission, yada, yada, yada. Yes, the higher probability was driving to the hoop against a backtracking Al Horford probably makes it. The people who say, well, if it goes to overtime, they're tired. You can see Jimmy was tired already because he played every minute of the game. I don't buy that. I don't think he stopped and said, I don't want to play overtime, shoot the three. I know that's what all the talking heads like to say, that if the Heat had gone to overtime, they would have lost because they were tired. Well, the Heat dominated the last 3 minutes of the game, going on a 13-0 run. So I think they would have been fine in overtime. Jimmy had been working on the three. He'd been hitting a lot of threes. He's not a three-point shooter. But in the moment, you got the momentum. You got everything going your way. You got the ball for a chance to win. Who wouldn't take that shot? We can all Monday morning quarterback it. Was it a higher percentage to drive the hoop against a backtracking player, probably drawing a foul and getting 2 shots anyway, or taking a 33% shot from three-point land? Hey, if you're going to tell me that the entire Heat season is it going to come down to Jimmy Butler hitting a three-pointer that wide open, uncontested, I'd say fine. Give me my chances. So is what it is. Joe, at the end of the day, if you look at the totality of the 7-game series, the Celtics outplayed the Heat. And as a Heat fan, I can readily admit that they got outplayed. You can add all 4 quarters, 28 quarters together, and the Celtics won about 24 of them. So the Heat had their moments, but the Celtics played better with a better team. And maybe if both teams are fully healthy, something else happens. But at the end of the day, you can only do what you do, and you can't take the entire first quarter off like they did in Game 7. Yeah. You can't have Game 4 and 5 where you put up complete duds and say, it's all right, we got 2 wins, we'll catch them later. You're not supposed to have to go to Boston and win Game 6. So it was a fun series. It was an aggravating series. But, hey, as long as Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra are there, the Heat will be good.
Absolutely. Well, all the best to your Heat next season. And David, thank you so much for joining me here on the Joe Madden Sports Podcast. I want to wish you all the best in all of your bets. And can you let everyone know again where to find you?
Sure. ESPN.com Chalk is where all of our content is. Our golf picks are out there this morning that we just talked about. We're going to have our MMA picks up on tomorrow, and we'll have our NBA finals preview as well as Game 1 preview up tomorrow on ESPN Chalk. And you can follow me on Twitter at Bearman ESPN. I'm there. I usually respond to almost everybody. Probably not something I should do all the time, but I do respond to everybody. So hit me up when you need it.
Thank you, David. Appreciate you. We'll let you get out of your Superman booth. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.